Here at the AnomicAge, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the AnomicAge, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the JohnAge project at AnomicAge.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Dareth. Dareth is 17 years old. Mrs. Morrissey, I don't have to tell you that most parents would be extremely depressed if their daughter came home one day looking like this. I assume that was your response shock, anger, depression? What was it?
I was extremely angry. I really went bananas.
Yeah, how old was she when this happened?
Possibly 13, 14 years old.
We're talking like it's a disease, isn't it?
Well,
yeah. How did she explain it to you, Mrs. Morrissey?
there was very poor communication until we went into counseling. And it almost broke up our family. But through counseling and Serena, I can understand it better.
What do you understand?
That she feels like she doesn't want to be like everyone else, and she wants to be her own person. And through the dress code and her lifestyle, she's expressing this. It doesn't conform with our rules, but we're learning to cope, and it's a very, very difficult thing. Extremely difficult.
Dareth, let's let you talk for yourself. You're from Long Beach, California.
I just can't handle being like everybody else because that's what everybody else wants, you know. Just because somebody else does something does not mean that I have to do it. You know, I have my own morals and ideals, and I go by them.
Are you drug-free, Dareth?
Yes, I am.
Is this a political statement, then? Do you have some misgiving about the society that you see?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, you know. A lot of the people are really aware of what's going on, you know, and I don't like it, you know. There's a lot of problems.
What?
I don't like the way society is based.
What bothers you? Give us some of the misgivings you have.
The rich, the poor, the people starving, the wars, you know. Why can't, you know, everybody just get along and just live their life?
Here at the AnomicAge, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the AnomicAge, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the JohnAge project at AnomicAge.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Dareth. Dareth is 17 years old. Mrs. Morrissey, I don't have to tell you that most parents would be extremely depressed if their daughter came home one day looking like this. I assume that was your response shock, anger, depression? What was it?
I was extremely angry. I really went bananas.
Yeah, how old was she when this happened?
Possibly 13, 14 years old.
We're talking like it's a disease, isn't it?
Well,
yeah. How did she explain it to you, Mrs. Morrissey?
there was very poor communication until we went into counseling. And it almost broke up our family. But through counseling and Serena, I can understand it better.
What do you understand?
That she feels like she doesn't want to be like everyone else, and she wants to be her own person. And through the dress code and her lifestyle, she's expressing this. It doesn't conform with our rules, but we're learning to cope, and it's a very, very difficult thing. Extremely difficult.
Dareth, let's let you talk for yourself. You're from Long Beach, California.
I just can't handle being like everybody else because that's what everybody else wants, you know. Just because somebody else does something does not mean that I have to do it. You know, I have my own morals and ideals, and I go by them.
Are you drug-free, Dareth?
Yes, I am.
Is this a political statement, then? Do you have some misgiving about the society that you see?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, you know. A lot of the people are really aware of what's going on, you know, and I don't like it, you know. There's a lot of problems.
What?
I don't like the way society is based.
What bothers you? Give us some of the misgivings you have.
The rich, the poor, the people starving, the wars, you know. Why can't, you know, everybody just get along and just live their life?
Here at the AnomicAge, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the AnomicAge, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the JohnAge project at AnomicAge.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Dareth. Dareth is 17 years old. Mrs. Morrissey, I don't have to tell you that most parents would be extremely depressed if their daughter came home one day looking like this. I assume that was your response shock, anger, depression? What was it?
I was extremely angry. I really went bananas.
Yeah, how old was she when this happened?
Possibly 13, 14 years old.
We're talking like it's a disease, isn't it?
Well,
yeah. How did she explain it to you, Mrs. Morrissey?
there was very poor communication until we went into counseling. And it almost broke up our family. But through counseling and Serena, I can understand it better.
What do you understand?
That she feels like she doesn't want to be like everyone else, and she wants to be her own person. And through the dress code and her lifestyle, she's expressing this. It doesn't conform with our rules, but we're learning to cope, and it's a very, very difficult thing. Extremely difficult.
Dareth, let's let you talk for yourself. You're from Long Beach, California.
I just can't handle being like everybody else because that's what everybody else wants, you know. Just because somebody else does something does not mean that I have to do it. You know, I have my own morals and ideals, and I go by them.
Are you drug-free, Dareth?
Yes, I am.
Is this a political statement, then? Do you have some misgiving about the society that you see?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, you know. A lot of the people are really aware of what's going on, you know, and I don't like it, you know. There's a lot of problems.
What?
I don't like the way society is based.
What bothers you? Give us some of the misgivings you have.
The rich, the poor, the people starving, the wars, you know. Why can't, you know, everybody just get along and just live their life?
Here at the AnomicAge, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the AnomicAge, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the JohnAge project at AnomicAge.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Dareth. Dareth is 17 years old. Mrs. Morrissey, I don't have to tell you that most parents would be extremely depressed if their daughter came home one day looking like this. I assume that was your response shock, anger, depression? What was it?
I was extremely angry. I really went bananas.
Yeah, how old was she when this happened?
Possibly 13, 14 years old.
We're talking like it's a disease, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah. How did she explain it to you, Mrs. Morrissey?
there was very poor communication until we went into counseling. And it almost broke up our family. But through counseling and Serena, I can understand it better.
What do you understand?
That she feels like she doesn't want to be like everyone.
Salon Rio and Chevy.
Propagating truth in a world of lies. You are listening to the JohnAge Project.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Trust no one.
You found it. You're here. You're headlong down the runaway train that is the AnomicAge, and I am your host, JohnAge. Happy to be back with you once again in the not-so-wee hours of the afternoon almost. I guess we're evening. We're sitting at 8:19 Eastern Standard Time. I'm hailing proudly from the coastal plains of the old North State, and I will be your tour guide this evening as we take a somewhat satirical journey down the path of murder, destruction, mayhem, and the extermination of human life on this planet. A forced march into obsolescence thrust upon us by a global satanic death cult of pedophiles. Check out AnomicAge.com. If you haven't done that in a while, you need to check it out. Like all the likes, subscribe to all the subscriptions, paypal.me/AnomicAge, patreon.com/AnomicAge as well. No matter what you might happen to be listening to and or watching this on, I guarantee you can help me out by going there to AnomicAge.com. You can download it, you can share it, you can do all that stuff. And you can find all the social media platforms to follow me there as well. We're at Game 7 of the NBA playoffs. Must be the most boring playoffs of all time, but I digress. Only got 8 to 9 mil even watching this garbage, but I digress again. I love basketball. I might tune in for the last quarter at the most, but I don't know. We'll see. I know somebody's tapping the little finger and saying you're talking about sports ball. We'll talk about this, okay? Anyway. You didn't come here to talk about that, not yet. What I wanted to talk about this evening is, where's the God Blessed homepage? There it is. My heavens. I was getting riled there, angry, and otherwise disturbed. Tonight we're talking about war. War is fun, baby, yeah. Did you know? Don't you know war is fun? It's a fun time, isn't it? Oh, my gracious goodness. All right, before we jump to shark and get into this joke-level war nonsense, let's, let me see. I got a little of this. Yeah, that's what I was kind of leading off with anyway. North Carolina, our illustrious governor, Communist-in-Chief Josh Stein. Aren't you glad? Aren't you glad, people in North Carolina? I'm speaking particularly to the terminally mentally ill that voted against Mark Robinson, and I guess for this joker, Governor Josh Stein. Aren't you glad, folks? I mean, I know you are because you have the intellect of a gnat, but, you know, to those other people out there, I guess, I wish I had the money to move. I really do. I really,
truly wish I had the money to move. PayPal.me/AnomicAge, Patreon.com/AnomicAge as well. Governor Stein vetoes immigration and concealed carry bill. Yeah, there was a bill that passed everything but the governor's seats that would have said, no, you don't need a concealed carry permit to conceal carry in NC. I mean, you know, it's if the Second Amendment wasn't enough. Somehow these stupid states feel like they have more power than everything, I guess, and they can just usurp all of our God-given rights. And thus, Josh Stein feels that way too. So, nay on the concealed carry bill that was going to go through. And of course, nay on stricter immigration laws. They had some lovely little dips and drips and drabs in there that would have helped ICE and other government agencies to get the millions of undocumented illegal aliens and invaders out of our state and country. But fear not, we've got folks like Josh Stein towing the company line here in NC. Again, PayPal.me/AnomicAge, Patreon.com. If you'd like to hook me up so I can get the bleep out of this nightmare. By the way, it's like 90-something degrees today and 100% humidity in the shade. It's a veritable smorgasbord. I mean, it's a pretty good transition that we're going to talk about war, and I'll throw up there the image from Vietnam, because I would suppose that it's very much like a jungle nightmare here in NC. Except there's just communist filth everywhere, traffic and scum and ne'er-do-wells and Nellies, carpetbaggers and the like. So war is fun, or at least that's what they'd have you believe if you were listening to and or watching anything on the news in the last few days. It's downright disgusting. It made me think of this Fear song. Let me put this on the screen for you. This is a good one, too. Can we get this garbage out here, please? No, good gracious, not that. This. The Fear song, Foreign Policy. Eliminate the incompetence. Differences don't exist in harmony. Survival is superiority. We don't need no hands across the sea. No, we don't, Lee Ving. No, we don't. The lines are drawn, establish the new order. What was he talking about when he was making this way back in the 80s, early 80s? Was he talking about the New World Order? I don't know. Sounds like some great goody mob, too, existing in the New World Order. Anyway, folks, a little tongue-in-cheek and a little levity goes a long way, and it's time to pull the reins on that, because I know people are crying because they've believed all the propaganda and we have to go to war for Israel. Again. It just blows my mind, folks, that nobody can put the pieces of the puzzle together. It's like one of those puzzles, I guess these still exist, the wooden cutout puzzles where the wooden board is actually cut out in the shape of the object. You've got about 6 pieces on this puzzle board. The one I remember had like a rabbit and a chicken or something on it from the 70s, but probably no longer in existence. I'm sure it was a safety hazard. But nobody can seem to put the pieces together. My heavens, it's just insane, folks. We're going to war for Israel again. I mean, it's bankers' war after bankers' war. How many wars do we need to go into on the pretext and pretense of false flags that are really just bankers' wars? I mean, good night, nurse, folks. It's just so insane that anybody's still buying the hoopla at this point in the game. I mean, how far do we want to go back with this? I've ran this rundown so many times, but the sinking of the Lusitania, yeah, false flag. The sinking of the Maine, false flag. So we got Spanish-American War, World War I. Pearl Harbor, in case you missed that, you should probably look into it because it's a definite false flag. As with all these things, we're not saying things didn't blow up and people didn't die. We're just saying it wasn't who you were told it was. Please, folks, please don't be that stupid. Then we want to get into Vietnam. I don't know why we always skate the Korean War. That was just a bogus bunch of baloney too. Well, but I digress. You had Pol Pot put in power. Oh my goodness. By our own CIA. Then we roll into Vietnam, and we got the false flag of all false flags, which everyone should be familiar with, but no one seems to know a hoot about. Yeah, that would be Jim Morrison's dad, Admiral Morrison. And the dreaded Gulf of Tonkin incident. Nope, didn't happen. That was just a totally made up one. I mean, the rest of these things, at least things blew up and people died. The Gulf of Tonkin was just, I mean, as real as Mothra, folks. It wasn't even close to being real. Then we want to pull into the post of 9/11. Because that one should be the one that most people in my generation are most familiar with. The Gen Xers, man. So the 9/11 was false flag of false flags. That one was clearly orchestrated by our own government, by Israel. It didn't happen due to some guy in a cave on dialysis. Total hilarity. So that one brought us into the great weapons of mass destruction snipe hunt. Yeah, that's the goodie. Remember Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz and Cheney? Project for New American Century, We need a new Pearl Harbor to galvanize public opinion so we can take out this list of countries. They had a list, folks. We've checked off virtually every country on the list. It's hilarious if it weren't so true. Wars for Israel again. So we I guess just feel this driving need because elements of this orthodoxy have infiltrated all avenues of our government and controlled us, cucked us, neutered us, prostrated us into going to war for them at the drop of a hat and assuredly funding them to the tune of countless billions of dollars. Everyone wants to talk about this big golden dome or what the bleep ever. Well, that should be called the American Dome. Much like the Gulf of Mexico is now the Gulf of America. Why don't we just start putting our own branding on all the mess we've paid for? And you got Trump and everybody else talking about these horrible nuclear weapons that just happen to be in Iran. Well, I wonder why. Because we sold it to them. We sold it to them, folks. We gave it to them. All this munitions that was left over there, every administration, let's just leave goodies everywhere. It's kind of like every time these commie fruit bats of Antifa, of BLM, or No Kings, or whatever the newest incarnation of stupid is, every time they show up on the scene, it's like they have some sort of mystical munitions drop, and there's just bricks everywhere. Where do these come from? I don't know. Where did all these weapons come from? Where'd the nukes come from? Where'd all the armaments come from? Well, I know where. They came from the Americans. Yeah. So we trained them. Mujahideen, anybody? Yeah. Al-Qaeda, anybody? Oh, yeah. It blows my mind. But that's not really what I want to talk about tonight. Tonight, the real point of all this is this war is fun mantra. And we have this black, white, and gray propaganda. I'm just being as white propaganda as possible and coming out full force and saying war is fun because that's pretty much the yarn that's being sold to the American populace on all the channels, alternative and otherwise. War is fun. It's cute. It's cool. Remember the actor, what was that? The real actor, the Jeff Spicoli boob, basically saying, "Oh, we can survive a nuclear holocaust and stuff and things." Yeah. Sounded very Spicoli-esque. the actor portraying the character or the character portraying the actor, yeah. So that's the yarn we've been sort of being quietly fed for quite some time now. But now, all the channels are sort of back in the same horse. Let's have a war. More great Fear songs for you. Should look into Fear. If you don't listen to them, you're losing out. Let's Have a War is another great song. I would have talked about that one, but I thought it was far too obvious. I've done it in the past. So, yeah, I mean, everybody's back at the same horse now. It's the babies in the incubators. Remember that from the Gulf War I? When the person, the babies in the incubators. And it turned out to be the ambassador's daughter over there doing this great acting job. The babies, and they're killing the kids in the hospitals and everything. You know what? Israel's been blowing up hospitals for quite some time, and nobody seems to give a bleep. But now, I guess it's different because somebody else is doing it too. I mean, look, folks, this ain't a right or a left issue. This is just a sheer stupidity or survival issue to me. And I really wanted to talk about this and get into this book a little bit, but I kind of pulled the ripcord on that one. I wanted to talk about the book, Johnny Got His Guns. I don't think I have this one even pulled up. Heavens to Betsy, no. Well, that stinks. I had it pulled up, and at the last minute, I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't talk about it. It's a great book. I believe it's 1939. Johnny Got His Gun, if I'm not mistaken on. Let me pull this to make sure I get the right date on that one. 1939, Johnny Got His Gun. Yes, that's the name of the book indeed. Dalton Trumbo. And if you read the bio on this, I would assume this is accurate. At this point, who the bleep knows? But Johnny Got His Gun, Dalton Trumbo, really was criticizing World War I. Came out in 1939. It was primarily being used, if you believe what they're telling you, by the commies, the left, the Democrats, that were anti-World War II. What a concept. And then it kind of got resurrected in Vietnam and has been sort of one of the poster child books of the left, just criticizing war. Okay, so you read this and you think, well, that's just normal, right? But they're, of course, framing it in this darling right-left paradigm, the binomial nomenclature, the right and the left, the Reds and the Blues, the Dems and the Republicans, the Redskins and the Rams, or whatever the bleep it is, They always have it framed in this sort of way, and no one can just say, you know what, you're both whacked out of your minds. How about you just throw your stinking war and nobody shows up? I think that was quite apropos in the 1960s, but now they would just have AI do it. They just have drone strikes do it. They just have some Mad Hatter fruit bat pushing buttons doing it. And whether we wanted to be in said war or not, whether or not anyone showed up with their flight gear on and their camo to go over there and do the unthinkable, it wouldn't matter. So I don't even think that argument applies anymore. But they've trained the general public into believing this right-left binomial nomenclature. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of binary opposition. Said binomial nomenclature. Scratch that. We're not talking about genus and species. We are talking about... Oh, my goodness. Binary opposition. Sorry. We've been so trained into binary opposition. The ones and zeros, the right and the left, the X's and O's. You know how it goes. That people feel compelled to pick a side. Sometimes I watch basketball with my daughter, and my daughter's always like, who are you going for? And I'm like, nobody. I just kind of like the game. I like watching basketball, but kind of like the NBA playoffs and pretty much every game in the playoffs, I wish both teams could lose. Everyone deserves to lose. This whole thing is a lose-lose situation. But we've been trained to accept one thing or the other. You have to take a side. You can't be a fence rider. I'm not a fence rider. I think you're both loons, okay? I'm not for Israel. No, we shouldn't be giving these boobs a dime. This wasn't the God's promised land out of the Bible, you Christian kooks. No. This was a land that came into existence in the 1940s, after World War II, okay? Right before The League of Nations turned into the UN. Right after, I believe, the OSS turned into the CIA. Like, all this kook level stuff was going on. And then we just pull Israel out of a hat, force people into assimilation, and then wonder why it goes wrong. You know, I mean, man, you could draw a lot of parallels between that mess and some of this forced assimilation that's happened in the history of this country. But I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole right now. You can celebrate your Juneteenth and just embrace it all you want to. By the way, I didn't even cover this. I should have. Breaking. Islamicists have stormed the train station in New York City. New York City? Yes. Big surprise. Will anything be done? No. They might have some people pat them on the back and pat some people away. But if they really wanted to do anything, they'd take away the rubber bullets and the tear gas, and instead they'd... I digress. So yeah, that's going down too. But people, I guess, are too stupid to just say, you know what, you're both crazy. We're not for Israel. No, we shouldn't be giving them a dime. And B, we're certainly not for Iran. We're certainly not for Iraq. Yeah, anyone with eyes to see and ears to hear knows the whole Mossadegh thing, knows the Operation Ajax, knows that our CIA has been fouling up all the countries in the Middle East for the last 100 flipping years. That's what we do. So if we had a real government that wasn't controlled by those aforementioned, then we'd kick all these criminal bleep bags out, give them their just trial, and let justice take its course. We'd eliminate all these different agencies, but alas, that ain't happening. So it looks like we'll just keep on keeping on and playing in the sandbox of the Middle East for eternity. All the while blaming the Russians. It's the Russians, I tell you. What a bunch of nothing. I mean, complete bunch of poo-poo. Again, people that still believe this deserve everything that they get. People that fall into the, it's Israel from the mob, we've got to defend them to the death for eternity. You're an idiot. Oh, it's the poor little Palestinians. Oh, it's the poor little Ukrainians. Oh, it's the poor little Iraqis. Oh, it's the poor little Iranians. You're all idiots, folks. You're all idiots. I'm sorry. Here's the big thing. All those countries that I just rattled off for you are not America. This is going to be shocking for a lot of you. Those places are not this country. Bring your ears on it. Come on closer. Those places are not America. We should close all these foreign bases, bring the troops home, kick everyone illegal, suspected illegal, or probable illegal, everyone that's a traitor, everyone that's a treasonist, everyone that's a scumbag, the stink out of here, and take care of, guess where? America. Yeah. So I think there seems to be at least some constituency in the populace that actually has a brain and is picking up what I'm putting down and has for a long, long time. Because there's a big, or at least social media would have you believe. I mean, that could just all be bots, boobs, and bogus accounts. But it seems that there are people out there that actually figure this whole thing out, and they're like, yo, dude, we ain't dying for Israel. We've heard the CCR song, Fortunate Son, and we ain't playing the game anymore. And people are thinking like there's low enrollment in the military and blah, 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 because everybody's a big fat piece of trash stuck on video games and drugs and porn and various other devices, which is true. But I think another big piece of this whole puzzle is that people have figured this mess out. They've had friends, family, parents, and so forth that have fallen for the nonsense, that have fallen for the cheese on the trap and done their duty, and they're dang tired of it. They don't want to go to war for Israel. They don't want to go to war for Ukraine or Palestine or anything else. Who the bleep does? That's insane. What was I just seeing? I saw this right before I went on here. I believe it's an attack on, my goodness, I can't think of this boob's name. Goodness gracious, I can't even find it now, I swear. I can't think of the guy's name. Whoever the head of Iran is, yeah, there's supposedly an attack on his bunker or something, so we'll see. I'm sure that wasn't us. Wink, wink, wink. I'm sure it was somebody else. It wasn't us. Yeah, here we are. Was Khomeini's bunker just struck? New U.S. news stations have remained silent. Well, of course they have. My heavens. Why does anyone call them news anymore? Regurgitators of dung might be more appropriate. All right, folks. I think you're feeling me here. War is fun. That's what they would have you believe. I mean, all the TV shows, all the movies, all the games just really have war portrayed as this happy-go-lucky, everything works out in the end, sitcom kind of beautiful ending. And that's really what's promulgated now. Between it's our duty to protect Israel for life, what about the babies, what about the incubators, that usual yarn. Like, nobody gives a crap about the American babies, over 60 million murdered since Roe versus Wade. No one cares about them. No one cares about the addict-ridden American babies that are just sleeping on boxes in the street. Who gives a crud? So, therein lies the problem again. Otra vez. We care about the invaders' babies, but not the actual American citizens' babies. See how weird that is? We care about the migrants, but not the veterans. See how weird that is? But, yeah, I mean, if you would watch any of this mainstream dribble, they just, we're going to war again. It's going to be like Gulf War again. It's just going to be like Gulf War. It'll be over in a couple days. There'll be Scud missiles and a bunch of air barrages and embankments and attacks and stuff, and it'll be over. We need more actual, just blood and guts gore. Some of the stuff that you saw after World War I, that's why I mentioned the Johnny Got His Gun novel and book earlier. But we need more of that in the actual news sphere. We won't get it, but you need more of that. Because the average person goes into this nonsense with blinders on, or definitely rose-colored glasses, and just believes all the hype, like it's going to be, whatever their favorite movie is. It's going to be like Black Hawk Down, but it's all going to work out in the end. It's going to be like whatever CIA propaganda arm sponsored and controlled and contrived movie that you like the most about war. It's going to be like that, It's not going to be like The Deer Hunter. It's going to be okay in the end. You know what I mean? And that is the problem, folks. War is not pretty. To quote Embrace, great band out of D.C., death is not glamorous. War is not glamorous. It's not the Star-Spangled Banner and people in uniforms and the Blue Angels flying over a sporting event. That's not war. That's the propaganda, you boob. War is more in line with Johnny Got His Gun, where you're dismembered, where you're disemboweled, where people are destroyed in front of you. You might find this entertaining, maybe not, but I watched Cannibal Holocaust recently. Great early 80s film if you're into that sort of thing. At this age, I'm just not. To be honest, I fast-forwarded through the rough stuff, in my humble opinion, because I'm just not anymore. A huge horror movie fan, love Halloween, no compromise, no apologies on that, but the older I've gotten, the less and less and less and less I want to do with the blood and guts and the gore. I'm just not into it anymore, folks. Call me what you will, I don't care. But that is what the average person needs to see more of to break their trance of propaganda-induced nonsense. Because it's way more in line with Cannibal Holocaust. It's way more in line with Johnny Got His Guns. I mean, some great album art by, goodness gracious, what was it? There was a good album art by Crass and a good album art by the Dead Kennedys that just showed the horrors of war, which you just don't see. Discharge, more great punk and hardcore stuff with just stark album covers that were actual war images. Like, that's what you actually need to see in order to stop believing the hype. This ain't going to be a weekend. This ain't going to be some weekend warrior stuff. Everybody's not going to come over the hill and come back home okay. Like, that's not what's up. Even if that is your side and what's up, the opposite side of that binary opposition is blown to pieces, destroyed, decimated, and otherwise eliminated. Or wish they were eliminated. I went on a real kick a couple years ago. I don't know why I get on these weird kicks where I just did a complete, disturbing deep dive into Vietnam. Just watched nothing but Vietnam propaganda films, actual films and footage from that era. Went into the deep rabbit hole listening to a lot of veterans talk about that conflict. Because, again, we haven't been in a declared war since World War II. They're just conflicts. They're just freedom exercises, right? It's not torture. It's rendition, right? That's what's up, folks. We put a happy face on everything. Put happy faces, and we write little slogans on our bombs. We write happy little messages on our planes. That's what we are. We're love. We're spreading peace and harmony. We're here to blow up your country so we can rebuild your country. So we can have more operatives than we do soldiers in the country. So we can have way more private agencies and NGOs than we actually have soldiers in the country. It's really disturbing out there, folks. And this isn't an anti-American thing. This is I don't want our country doing more dark mess thing. I don't want the American people going off and dying thing. I don't want us just indiscriminately killing other people in other countries thing. Full disclosure, if others in other parts of the world want to hack each other to bits, that's not my thing. But if that's their thing and they're doing it over there, then keep it over there. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you live in a neighborhood and the neighbor next door's having a baseball game in the backyard or a kickball game. Yo, dude, as long as the ball stays in your yard, it's cool. The ball starts coming into our yard, breaking windows and knocking over people, then we got an issue. But it's sad, folks. The thesis of this episode is quite the inversion of the title. War is fun? I don't think so. War is anything but fun. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe your favorite politicians. Don't believe these warmongering neocons, nor these commie leftists. None of this is reason for us to go to war. We should stay our butts home and take care of the home front, if you will. You can't do everything, but you can do something. Get out there, do your part, make a difference, and I'll be seeing you sooner than later in the Anomic Age.
Thank you for listening to the Anomic Age, a JohnAge project. For past shows, further info, and to comment, go to AnomicAge.com. That's AnomicAge.com. Till next time, thank you for listening to the Anomic Age.
Thank you.